The acrid scent of plasma discharge hung heavy in the air as Captain Elias Ward stepped through the wreckage of what had once been Outpost Kepri. Ionized metal burned the back of his throat. The tang of scorched insulation clung to his tongue. Smoke drifted in greasy spirals between skeletal support beams that had once held up a command spire. Every few seconds, something collapsed in the distance, an unstable gantry, a fractured defense turret, each crash echoing far too loudly in the hollowed ruin. His boots crushed shattered alloy and spent casings. Fragments of shattered visors stared up at him from the dust like blind eyes. A dropship lay on its side nearby, hull peeled open, its interior blackened and fused. The wind carried the thin, metallic scent of blood, human and alien mingled together in the ash. The battlefield was silent. Too silent. Ward stopped moving and listened. No artillery. No pulse-fire chatter. No screaming over open comms. Just the faint crackle of dying fires and the distant hiss of venting gas. His helmet display flickered against his visor, spiderweb cracks distorting the tactical overlay. The suit's internal systems ran diagnostics in the corner of his vision. Armor integrity, 58%. Power core, 41%. Ammunition, 12%. Medical auto-injectors, 1 remaining. His M77 pulse rifle hung steady in his hands, its capacitor whining softly as it recycled charge. The weapon's heat gauge blinked amber, warning of overuse. He adjusted his grip, the servo motors in his gauntlets whining in response. His HUD pinged as it attempted to re-establish contact with command satellites. Searching. Searching. Signal lost. He toggled squad frequency. Echo actual to Fireteam Atlas. Report. Static hissed back at him. He tried the emergency channel. Nothing. The sky above Outpost Kepri was torn open by the fading contrails of retreating enemy warships. They had come like a storm, precision orbital strikes, shock troops in silver armor, anti-vehicle lances that turned steel into vapor. And then, just as suddenly, they had withdrawn. Leaving this. Ward stepped over a collapsed barricade, boots scraping against carbonized sandbags. A friendly IFF tag blinked weakly ahead. He hurried forward, hope flaring for half a second, only to find a shattered helmet half buried in debris. The signal died completely. His jaw tightened. His suit's external microphones amplified the emptiness. No footsteps but his own. No breathing but his own recycled air. Even the wind seemed hesitant to disturb the graveyard. He forced himself to breathe slowly. This wasn't how it was supposed to end. The order had been clear: surrender the alien royal hostage to secure evacuation. Protocol dictated compliance. The princess was an asset, negotiable, expendable in the calculus of interstellar war. He had refused. And when the fleet realized she was gone, when they understood he had defied direct command, Outpost Kepri became an example. Ward scanned the horizon one more time. No friendly signals. No extraction craft. No movement beyond drifting ash. He might be the last one standing. Beneath the wreckage of the command vault, hidden in a sealed maintenance conduit only he knew about, an alien princess waited, terrified, hunted, and alive. Ward checked the charge on his rifle and turned toward the shattered bunker entrance. If he was alone, then so be it. He had already broken protocol. Now he would break whatever came next. A faint tremor rippled across Ward's motion scanner. He froze mid-step. The ruined bunker groaned around him, fractured concrete and alloy hanging overhead in unstable sheets. His rifle snapped toward the signal automatically, muzzle tracking the pulsing blip beneath layers of debris. For a moment, he expected hostile movement, one of the silver-armored shock troops returning to finish the job. The scanner pulsed again. Weak. Irregular. Beneath the debris lay a figure that didn't belong to the smoke and ruin. Ward shoved aside a twisted support strut and dropped to one knee. Through the drifting ash, he saw her. She was nothing like the propaganda briefings. Her skin shimmered faintly beneath the dust, an opalescent hue that caught the dying firelight in fractured prisms. Fine bioluminescent lines traced delicate geometric patterns along her temples and down her throat, flickering erratically like damaged circuitry. A circlet of fractured crystal rested against her brow, half melted, its once regal structure cracked by heat. Her hair, if it could be called that, fell in weightless strands like spun silver filament, drifting slightly despite the still air, reacting to electromagnetic fields rather than gravity. And her eyes. They opened. Sharp. Intelligent. Defiant. Not prey. Not helpless. Royal. She tried to rise, and Ward saw the damage. One arm bent at an unnatural angle, the crystalline bone beneath her skin visibly splintered. A deep laceration cut across her abdomen, where silver-blue blood seeped slowly, hissing where it touched hot metal. The faint glow beneath her skin flickered unevenly. Powerful, yes. But dying. Her gaze locked onto his visor, unflinching despite the rifle pointed in her direction. "Leave me," she said, her voice strained but resonant, layered, harmonic, as though two tones spoke at once. "Your forces have already lost. You gain nothing by defying your command further." Ward's jaw tightened. He lowered the rifle slightly and activated his suit's bioscanner. A lattice of light swept across her body, feeding data into his HUD. Species, Illyrian royal lineage, confirmed. Internal hemorrhaging, severe. Skeletal fractures, multiple. Cellular regeneration, critically suppressed. Estimated survival probability without advanced care, 3.7%. Extraction viability flashed red. Even if a dropship answered, which it wouldn't, her physiology wouldn't survive standard human medbay stabilization. Atmospheric mismatch. Biochemical incompatibility. The nearest Allied fleet was 12 hours out. She didn't have 12 minutes. Protocol scrolled automatically across his visor, as if his suit felt obligated to remind him. Directive 7A. In the event of catastrophic loss, prioritize recoverable personnel. Directive 9C. Non-human assets deemed non-viable are to be terminated to prevent enemy reclamation. His finger hovered near the rifle's secondary setting. Clean. Efficient. Merciful. Her luminous eyes never left him. "You are alone," she said quietly. "Not a question. A recognition. If you remain here, they will return. They will erase what is left of you." His HUD flickered again. No friendly signals. She gave the slightest nod toward his weapon. "End it. Preserve your species' honor." Ward exhaled slowly. The battlefield above them was dead. His squad was gone. Command had written this place off the moment he refused to surrender her. Protocol was clear. He ignored it. Carefully, deliberately, he slung his rifle across his back and reached for the emergency medical kit mounted at his hip. "Princess," he said evenly, activating the first injector despite the warnings flashing across his display, "you're not dying here today." The bunker shuddered as something above finally gave way, showering them in a fresh cascade of dust and sparks. Ward didn't hesitate. "Like hell," he muttered, sliding one arm beneath her shoulders and the other beneath her knees. She was lighter than he expected, her frame elongated but fragile, crystalline bone structure humming faintly beneath his gauntlets. The bioluminescent patterns along her skin flared weakly at the contact, then dimmed again as pain rippled through her. "You will damage yourself," she said through clenched teeth as he pulled her free from the wreckage. "Your armor integrity is already compromised." "Add it to the list," he replied, grunting as he rose to his feet. His suit's servos whined under the added weight. Warning indicators pulsed red along the edge of his vision. Structural stress. Internal bleeding, his own, minor but worsening. He ignored them all. She studied him openly now, her luminous eyes sharp despite the tremor in her breathing. "You disobeyed a direct military command to preserve me," she said. "Your species values hierarchy, efficiency, strategic outcome. You have sacrificed all three." Ward adjusted his grip and stepped carefully over fractured plating toward the emergency exit corridor. "Funny," he said. "We also value not leaving someone to die." "I am not someone. I am the high heir of the Illyrian continuum." Even injured, there was iron in her voice. "Entire fleets will burn to reclaim me." "Yeah," he said dryly. "I noticed." Another distant rumble rolled through the structure. Time was bleeding away. "You are illogical, human," she said. "Your outpost has fallen. Your forces are eliminated. Survival probability for you alone would increase by abandoning me." Ward glanced down at her, visor reflecting the faint silver glow of her skin. "Yeah," he grinned faintly. "It's kind of our thing." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Self-destruction is not a virtue. Neither is surrender." He reached the corridor and kicked the manual release panel. The emergency hatch groaned but slid open, revealing a narrow maintenance shaft descending into darkness. She stiffened in his arms. "You cannot carry me far in your condition. Watch me. You will collapse." "Probably." She stared at him as though trying to recalculate an equation that refused to balance. "You are not genetically enhanced. Not cybernetically optimized. Your frame is average." "Wow," he muttered. "Kick a guy while he's bleeding." Despite herself, one corner of her mouth twitched. He saw it. A crack in the royal composure. "You misunderstand me," she said quietly. "Your species is physically inferior to many within the Coalition. Shorter lifespan. Slower regeneration. Reduced neural throughput." Ward began descending the shaft, boots thudding against metal rungs, each movement deliberate. "And yet," he said between breaths, "we're still here." The lights in her markings flickered again, but this time not from instability, from thought. "You believe survival itself is your superiority." "No," he said. "I believe we get back up, even when we shouldn't." He tightened his grip slightly as her breathing hitched. "They expected me to hand you over," he continued. "Trade you for a ride home. Clean ending. Strategic. And you chose extinction instead." He shrugged. "I chose you." The words hung between them in the dim shaft. "Not romantic. Not yet. But absolute." Her gaze softened, just a fraction. "You endanger your entire civilization for one wounded alien." Ward reached the lower hatch and forced it open, revealing the underground transit tunnels that might, if luck hadn't completely abandoned him, lead them beyond enemy scanners. "No," he said quietly, stepping into the darkness with her in his arms. "I endanger it because we're the kind of civilization that doesn't leave someone behind." For the first time since he'd found her, she didn't argue. And for the first time, she looked at him not as an inferior species, but as something unexpected. The underground transit tunnel trembled. Dust sifted from the ceiling in soft, betraying streams. Ward killed his lamp instantly and pressed himself against the curved wall, lowering the princess gently behind a fractured cargo crate. His HUD flared with motion signatures. 3, no, 4 contacts sweeping the access corridor ahead. Thermal outlines. Silver armor. "They returned sooner than predicted," she murmured, her voice barely louder than the hum of his suit. Ward checked his rifle charge. 9%. Story of my day. The patrol advanced with mechanical precision, footfalls perfectly spaced. No chatter. No wasted movement. Their helmets scanned in synchronized arcs. "They hunt in triangular formations," she whispered. 1 forward, 2 flanking, 1 in reserve. The rear unit carries a pulse lance capable of penetrating your armor at this range. He adjusted his aim slightly, lining up the lead trooper through the narrow gap in the crate. "Good," he said quietly. "I hate straight lines." Her luminous markings flickered faintly, amusement or anticipation. "On your mark," she said. "You're injured." "I am not helpless." The lead trooper stepped into full view. Ward fired. The M77 roared in the confined tunnel, pulse round slamming into the trooper's visor. Armor shattered in a burst of white sparks. The body dropped before it hit the ground. The flanking units reacted instantly, one diving left, the other firing blind suppression bursts that scorched molten lines across the wall inches above Ward's head. "Left flank, 3 meters," she called. Ward pivoted, rolling across the floor as a pulse bolt tore through the crate he'd used for cover. He came up on one knee and double-tapped the left flanker. The first shot staggered it. The second punched through a seam beneath the arm joint. Explosion. The tunnel flashed white as the trooper's power core ruptured. The third enemy advanced instead of retreating, adapting. "Smart." "Reserve unit charging," she warned. "Rear corridor." Ward saw it too late, a heavier silhouette emerging, pulse lance igniting with a rising whine. "Down!" he barked. She didn't hesitate. Despite her fractured arm, she extended her uninjured hand. The bioluminescent patterns along her skin blazed suddenly brilliant, geometric lines flaring into sharp focus. The air distorted between her palm and the advancing trooper, gravity folding inward like a lens. The lance fired. The beam bent. It curved impossibly off course and slammed into the ceiling, detonating in a shower of molten debris. Ward stared for half a heartbeat. "Remind me," he muttered, "never to play cards with you. Focus, human." "Right." He sprinted forward through falling sparks, closing distance before the heavy unit could recalibrate. Sliding beneath its next strike, he jammed a breaching charge against its chest plate and rolled clear. The blast shook the tunnel like a collapsing star. Silence followed. Burning fragments clattered to the ground. Ward rose slowly, rifle smoking, ears ringing. His HUD stabilized, no additional contacts. He turned back to her. She was breathing harder now, the glow along her skin dimming dangerously after the exertion. "That maneuver," he said, offering a hand to help her up, "would have been useful about 10 minutes ago." Her eyes met his, bright despite exhaustion. "I was conserving strength," she replied evenly. "You seemed eager to demonstrate yours." He helped her steady herself against the wall. "Impressive shooting," she breathed, studying the ruined patrol. "Impressive intel," he replied. A faint smile curved her lips again, less restrained this time. "You adapt quickly for a species you describe as average." He slung her arm carefully over his shoulder, supporting her weight as alarms began echoing faintly in the distance, reinforcements mobilizing. "Yeah," he said, guiding them deeper into the tunnel. "We're stubborn like that." Her gaze lingered on him a moment longer than necessary. "Stubborn," she repeated softly. Then, almost teasing, "Try not to die, Captain Ward. I would find it inconvenient." He smirked despite the blood trickling beneath his armor. "No promises, Princess." And together, human persistence and alien precision, they disappeared into the dark before the next wave arrived. The tunnel ended at a sealed vault door half buried beneath fallen plating. Ward braced himself and forced it open with a strained grunt. Inside, the chamber was untouched by the war above, circular, metallic walls etched with spiraling alien glyphs that pulsed faintly in soft violet light. At its center stood a crystalline structure suspended within a ring of dark metal, ancient, humming, alive. Her breath caught. "The ethereal conduit," she whispered. "I did not know one survived on this world." Ward scanned it automatically. No immediate explosive signatures. Radiation within tolerable range. Energy output rising steadily. "Please tell me that thing heals people." "It restores biological integrity," she said carefully. "But not without cost." He glanced back toward the tunnel entrance. His HUD pinged, multiple hostiles entering the lower transit network. "Fast. How much cost?" She stepped toward the device despite her injury, placing her unbroken hand against the crystalline surface. The glyphs brightened instantly, reacting to her touch. Energy rippled outward in concentric waves. "It was designed for bonded pairs within my lineage," she said. "To merge cellular matrices. To share vitality." Ward blinked. "That sounds complicated." "It creates a biological bond," she said. He hesitated. "Define bond." Her luminous eyes met his directly. "Permanent." A distant explosion echoed through the tunnel system. Dust sifted down from the ceiling. His HUD flared red with incoming enemy signals, closing rapidly. "How permanent?" he pressed. "Our nervous systems would synchronize at a quantum level." "Pain." "Sensory input." "Emotional resonance." She swallowed. "If one dies, the other will experience it." He stared at the glowing chamber. "That's your people's version of a medical kit." "It is sacred technology," she said sharply. Then softer, "and dangerous." Another proximity alert screamed across his visor. 2 minutes. Maybe less. Her breathing was growing shallow again. The glow beneath her skin flickered like a dying star. "If we do not activate it," she said quietly, "I will not survive the next engagement. And you will fall soon after." He gave a humorless chuckle. "So either I die alone in a tunnel, or I permanently fuse my biology with an alien princess." Yes. He looked at the incoming enemy signals, triangular formations again, sweeping methodically toward them. Then back at her. Yeah, he said, stepping into the circular field as the conduit began to hum louder. I've made worse decisions. The glyphs flared blinding white. She joined him inside the ring. Their hands met against the crystal. The chamber erupted in light. Light swallowed them. Ward felt his knees hit the chamber floor, but he never felt the impact. Instead, he felt her. Not just her body against his. Her thoughts. They flooded in like starlight through fractured glass, ancient memory, royal discipline, the weight of 1,000 years of lineage compressed into a single blazing thread of consciousness. He gasped, clutching at the crystal as something rewrote itself beneath his skin. She felt him too. Pain. Stubbornness. Humor in the face of annihilation. The relentless human refusal to yield. It collided with her structured precision like a star-meeting atmosphere. The conduit roared. Her shattered bones reassembled in a lattice of luminous crystal. His internal bleeding sealed as silver light threaded through muscle fibers. His HUD shattered and reformed, alien glyphs integrating seamlessly with Terran code. He felt her thoughts before she spoke them. They breach in 3 seconds. He didn't ask how she knew. He knew. The vault door detonated inward. Silver-armored shock troopers stormed through the smoke. Ward rose slowly. Energy hummed along his arms, no longer just his armor's power supply. The bioluminescent patterns that once traced only her skin now flickered faintly beneath his own, glowing through the fractures in his combat suit. She stepped beside him. Uninjured. Radiant. They will attempt suppression fire, she thought. He adjusted his grip on the M77. She felt his trigger pull before he fired. The rifle discharged, but the pulse didn't travel in a straight line. It curved. Guided mid-flight by gravitational distortions, she shaped instinctively, and he stabilized instinctively. The bolt split into 3, striking multiple targets with impossible precision. The first rank fell instantly. Return fire erupted. She raised her hand. He stepped forward simultaneously. A kinetic barrier snapped into existence around them, fed by her control and anchored by his physical stance. Pulse rounds struck and dissolved into harmless showers of light. They moved, not as two beings, but as a single will. He advanced while she calculated vectors faster than his old HUD ever could. She bent force fields. He exploited openings. He rolled, fired, reloaded without speaking, and she adjusted enemy balance mid-charge, pulling them half an inch off-center. Half an inch was all he needed. One trooper lunged. She shifted gravity beneath its feet. He drove a combat blade through the exposed seam before it hit the ground. Explosion. Shockwave. Silence. The remaining enemies hesitated. For the first time since the invasion began. They hesitated. Ward felt her awareness expand outward, mapping the entire tunnel network in luminous detail. She felt his steady heartbeat anchoring her power, preventing it from spiraling out of control. Together, they stepped forward. The battlefield changed. Not because of superior firepower, not because of advanced technology, but because a human refused to let someone die. And an alien chose to trust him. The surviving troopers retreated. And for the first time that night, the hunters were afraid. The tunnel was quiet again. Not the fragile quiet of aftermath. The deliberate quiet of retreat. Through their shared awareness, Ward felt the enemy ships lifting from orbit, hesitation rippling through their command structure. They had witnessed something unprecedented. Something not accounted for in their doctrines. "They are withdrawing," he said softly. Temporarily, she corrected within the bond. The conduit's energy had faded, but the connection remained, steady, luminous, alive between them. He could feel the rhythm of her thoughts like a second heartbeat layered over his own. And beneath that, something else. Faint. New. "There's something you should know," she said quietly, her physical voice overlapping the shared current of her mind. He turned toward her. Through their bond, he felt it before she fully formed the words. A third presence. Not fear. Not pain. Potential. It was subtle, a flicker in the shared lattice of their merged biology. A harmonic that hadn't been there before. His breath caught. "That's not just residual energy," he said. "No," she replied. Her luminous markings pulsed softly, not with instability, but with transformation. "The conduit does not simply heal," she continued. "It unifies. When two compatible consciousnesses merge at full resonance, it can create continuity." Ward blinked. "Continuity," he repeated carefully. "A successor." The word hung between them. He felt it more clearly now, an embryonic spark forming within her physiology, carrying threads of both their genetic codes. Human adaptability woven into Illyrian bio-circuitry. Mortal resilience fused with ancient psionic architecture. A hybrid. His mind tried to process the implications. Political fallout. Military panic. Religious upheaval across two civilizations that had been at war hours ago. "This child," she said softly, "would possess access to both neural frameworks. Human unpredictability. Illyrian cognitive depth." He gave a weak, stunned laugh. "No pressure, kid." But beneath the humor, something fierce settled in his chest. Hope. Outside the vault, distant engines roared as the last hostile ships broke formation and slipped into faster-than-light corridors. Surveillance satellites pinged confusion across Terran networks. Illyrian command signatures shifted from retaliation to containment. The war had just changed. Not because of superior weapons, but because of what they had created. "They will fear it," she said. "Yeah," he replied. "Good." He stepped closer, resting his forehead gently against hers. Through the bond, he felt her uncertainty, royal responsibility colliding with something far more personal. "This child represents more than survival," she whispered. He nodded. "It represents choice. Human stubborn compassion. Alien precision. Two species that had nearly annihilated each other. Now bound by a life neither side could easily destroy without condemning its own future." In the silence of the ruined world, with fleets retreating and empires recalculating, Ward felt the third heartbeat steady within their shared awareness. Not an accident. Not a weapon. A bridge. And somewhere across the stars, two civilizations were about to realize. The war hadn't ended. It had evolved. Months later, the battlefield was a memory. Outpost Kepri no longer smoldered beneath a bruised sky. Reconstruction drones moved in elegant arcs above newly raised structures of Terran steel and Illyrian crystal. What had once been a graveyard of alloy and ash had become the first jointly governed colony in either civilization's history. Where there had once been orbital bombardment, there were diplomatic vessels. Where soldiers had stood aiming rifles, scientists now stood arguing over equations. The official term was Provisional Integration Accord. The unofficial term, spoken quietly across both species, Miracle. Ward stood on a balcony overlooking the rebuilt plains, his armor long since replaced by a formal hybrid uniform, Terran cut, Illyrian luminous threading along the collar. The faint bioluminescent tracery still shimmered subtly beneath his skin, permanent evidence of the conduit's choice. Beside him stood the high air of the Illyrian continuum, no longer hunted, no longer cornered in the ruins. Her presence now radiated calm authority instead of defiant survival. Through their bond, he felt the moment before it happened. A tightening. A surge. He turned toward her instantly. "It's time," she said softly. The chamber was nothing like the battlefield vault. Sunlight filtered through crystalline panels, refracting into gentle rainbows across polished stone. Human medical staff worked seamlessly beside Illyrian bio-architects, their technologies intertwined as naturally as breath. There was no screaming, no chaos, only focused intensity. Ward never left her side. He felt every flicker of effort through the bond, not as pain, but as shared purpose. Her hand tightened around his, and he steadied her, grounding the surge of alien energy with quiet, stubborn human presence. Then, a third heartbeat became a first cry. The sound was unlike anything either species had recorded before, layered tones woven with raw human lungs. The room stilled. The child's skin shimmered faintly, bioluminescent patterns forming and reforming beneath warm human flesh. Eyes opened, bright, curious, ancient and new all at once. A bridge made manifest. Outside, both Terran and Illyrian representatives waited in breathless silence. News would travel faster than any fleet. Not of conquest, of birth. Their child was proof that survival wasn't the pinnacle of evolution. Unity was. Ward held the infant carefully, marveling at the steady strength pulsing through such small fingers. Months ago, the acrid scent of plasma discharge had hung heavy in the air as he walked alone through ruin. He had been the last one standing. Now, as he looked at his family, at the living symbol of two civilizations choosing something better, he understood the truth buried beneath all human defiance. Strength was never about standing alone.